Hi everyone. I was going over the discussion post for this week, The Long Shadow, and it was interview. They were interviewing Bruce Perry on the lingering effects of trauma. I thought this was probably the best article that I've read so far during my college experience, just because I don't think that enough of us focus on the fact of what the aftermath of trauma can cause to somebody's life. And imagine going through trauma at a young age to begin with. You don't even understand what you're going through. So it's kind of like you're battling what's actually happening to you and wondering why it's happening to you. Is it your fault? And there's just all these things. So Bruce Perry, I think what's really good in this article too is that focus on crediting the doctor that they were interviewing just to show you that this is someone that specializes in this type of trauma. And I really love the way that he describes trauma. Experience or pattern of experiences that impairs the proper functioning of a person's stress responsive system, making it more reactive or sensitive. So it's kind of like more reactive, as in you're more protective of yourself, or that your senses are heightened, where you can be more alert for your age, or extremely sensitive, where you can rely on some type of substance abuse. And I was able to make that connection through my professions class that I'm taking right now, which is part of the group project that we're also doing, showing the emotional behavioral connection that people have with substance abuse. As in, no one just does that. Something normally happens, and through that they're reacting by X, Y, and Z and enabling into the substance abuse. So this trauma and dealing with this in your going through this article and understanding trauma goes to show that, just as he mentioned, you can be reactive or sensitive. I would Me being a victim of that, I don't even like really even using that word, but being able to know trauma through my childhood allowed me to be a person that is more reactive but also sensitive, making me sensitive towards those who've been through some type of trauma, which allowed me to go down this route of wanting to assist those in public service. But someone else can go through a different route and going through drug abuse, or themselves becoming an abuser, rather than stopping these type of situations. So again, the trauma affects everyone differently. It varies extremely, because trauma is trauma. It's not called trauma like, oh, I just, my bike broke down. Like, even something as a child falling down the stairs can have that child have a fear of heights, or having to have trust issues depending if their parents are nearby when that happened to them. There are different triggers, and science explain triggers and even the mentality of the fight or flight. And I really love the way they broke down and explained how high stress situations, your brain doesn't know how to function on that, and it gives you this thing: should you stay or should you run? And with triggers, you need to spend that time with yourself to understand, this is a trigger that's going to remind me of this bad part of my childhood, which causes me to act like this. My emotions and feelings are so high, and that feelings are so complex that often when we have to deal with those things, we ourselves do not know how to deal with them. And he also talked about that we often suppress information so we don't have to deal with said emotion at that current time. So with your brain being not used to trauma, because trauma attacks the brain. It is not something that's just gonna, oh, this happened to me, you're gonna be okay. As much as you suppress it, you are just prolonging and increasing the backfire, which is gonna cause you to do some type of crash, where you're not only going to have to deal with fight or flight, you're going to literally be doing both at the same time. And most of the times that happens, you implode. So I just really love this article. All in all, I think it was really, really great. I love the way he spoke about the triggers, the personal experiences, and you yourself asking what's wrong through these things. Lastly, I really loved how he focused on talking about indicators and knowing how to function during those times. And even mentioning logic and how subjective logic is, because what I consider to be logic is not what you consider to be logic, or most even what Dr. Perry was speaking of, or even the interviewer to begin with. And imagine you trying to process that and understand logic at a young age. And if you couldn't process it and you were suppressing it at age 5, 6, 7, 1 years old, even 13, 14, you bring it to your adulthood. And often people think when you're in your 20s, you have to know these things, but that's normally when it hits you the hardest. And if you continue to suppress it by then, you're going to have a full-on breakdown dealing with this trauma because you never dealt with it. And that's exactly what Perry really stressed. So this was a really great article, and I'm really happy that Professor decided for us to read it. It was really good.